And now we have the skin with all the cutouts that have to be done. Pretty detailed, but it's very accurate compared to what it needs to be for the real R2-D2. Now how we marked this out was this. I've got these images here, which I will post a link in the bottom of the video to give you these images. Basically you print these out. This is the second skin, so this is layer 2. You print this out to whatever size you can on A4 bit of paper, and then you work out, I know for a fact that my skin is 1256 millimeters long because I worked it out from the diameter using pi like discussed earlier. So in that case, that's 1256. You measure what it actually is from here to here, and you get 1256 divided by that number, and it gives you a number. And in my case, the length scale is 4.75. That means every millimeter on here, you measure it here and times it by 4.75, and that gives you every measurement going that way. And then you do the same down this way, and when I was coming down this way, my measurement was 5.57. So every time I need to measure the length of something, I would measure that from there to there, for instance. Whatever measurement that was, times it by 5.57, and that gave me the actual length from here to here. And then the width, I did the same thing, times it by 4.75. So that's how you do it, We've got to get a scale number. So you need your two scale numbers for your height and your length. And you can work out every single measurement for every single thing on the whole of R2's skin. This was skin 1, I got all the measurements off that, but I'm doing the skin just with a bare skin at the moment, not cutting any holes in it until I need to. This is skin 2. So everywhere that I've got these diagonal lines is where it has to be cut. For instance, that there is one leg hole up top, and that's the other one. The thing you have to make sure of is that they are exactly central when you wrap it around. Just remember that they're evenly spaced. So from here to here, plus here to here, I'll do it again. From here to here, plus here to here, has to be the exact same measurement as here to here. Alright? That way when you wrap it around, these holes will be exactly opposite. Everything else, you can go work as you go, but generally that's how it's going to be. Having said that, when I scaled it, I was 1 millimeter out using the scaling method. So I double checked it before I went any further, but it was pretty good. So all these parts here, for instance, this is the front of R2, so that's a bit that's cut out. These are those weird flippy things, don't know what they're called. That's cut out for your two vents. These are all your buttons. These are cutouts for vents and so on and so forth. So you got all this stuff, the vents and fan things and whatever they're called. So all these other things here, I've marked all these because I'm not actually going to cut them out. I'm going to burn with a soldering iron, burn those lines in. So it saves me cutting them and it keeps the strength into the skin. Hopefully, I'll do a few test cases on some scrap before I get into this, because once you mark this, once you cut it, it gets a bit flimsy. Now I want to cut this with a Dremel because this is 1.5mm thick. If you've got thinner stuff, you could probably use a Stanley knife, but I would recommend using a Dremel wherever you can because it's very, very delicate and very tough. We'll see how we go. I'll see you once I've cut it out. Right, now the skin's all cut out. I've cut all the pieces out. And I've marked the rest where I've got to score lines into it. But it was a long job and finicky, like fiddly job, so unless you've got one of these, a Dremel, I wouldn't bother tackling this job at all. So borrow one, buy one, whatever. I think they're about $150, but I borrowed this one. I'd recommend you borrowing this one. I'd recommend you borrowing one as well. You want to mark where your screws are on your drum, on R2's body. So when you're wrapping this around and gluing it, you don't screw into an existing screw hole. Okay, now we have our outer skin on. What I did is I put liquid nails, no more nails, whatever you called it, on this skin, on the back of this skin first, after I sanded all the burrs off. And then I ran octopus straps around the outside to hold it in place. And then I screwed around the top first, making sure that I pushed it so there's no gaps all the way along. putting screws in. We can always take, it's glued now, so we can take the screws out when it dries, countersink those holes and put the screws back in. Went all the way around there like that. And you can see where the marks where the other screws are underneath. I've just put screws in different spots. We've got a nice gap here. The gap's actually good because you get some nice filler in there, so when we sand, that'll be all nice and smooth. We've run screws all the way around there. Now, you've got wood all the way around the outside and down that seam, but you haven't got wood everywhere else. The beauty of having the inner skin here being 1.5mm thick, the same as this, is if you get a small drill bit, like that one, and just pilot drill through the plastic where it bubbles up, some spots are bubbled up, then you can just run some screws down to hold it in place until the glue dries. If it turns out you want to leave them there, you can take them out, countersink them and put them back in because they'll tap their way in. Just go slow with the drill so you don't burn a hole or break it and split it. But it's pretty good. The skin's on. It's starting to look a little bit like R2-D2. We've got a bit of recessed parts here. I'm going to cut that out and all that kind of stuff, but you know, it's all starting to come together. Now it's been glued, this second skin. I've drilled and countersunk all these holes all the way around and all the way down the seam. See, they're countersunk so they can be filled with filler later on. What I've also done is I've gone around and melted all these grooves in all the lines. As you can see, it's got to be sanded, but it looks like R2's body. This is the hatch at the back. The reason that black line there hasn't been scored with the soldering iron is because I'm going to cut that out. That's going to be the back hatch. I'm going to show you how to do the scoring with the soldering iron right now. What you'll need is a steel ruler like this, or any steel ruler. Even it doesn't have to be a ruler; it can be a piece of steel that's a little bit flexible, so you can go around the curves of this. But basically, you get your soldering iron, which is this. And what I did with the end is I rounded the end off a little bit, so it wasn't such a point. And then you basically wait till it gets really hot, and then you just mark down your lines about that speed, just about that pace, and you'll end up with a line like that. Get a bit of scrap and have a practice, get used to it. It took me a couple of hours to do the whole thing, but it's all worth it in the end. Here's a hole in the back. A few problems. First one is, don't know if you can see it, but that side is bulged up because there's no support behind it. This one's fine because it's got the wood right there. Also, the glue that I thought that would hold this curved, it's got a slight curve in it, but not enough, which is fine. I was hoping it wouldn't happen, but I was prepared for it to happen. So what we're going to need to do now is we're going to build a subframe inside to hold that door, and also a subframe on the door to match it. That'll give it some strength and hold its shape. Should be pretty easy to do. Now I've gone around the whole R2 with a soldering iron and sanded all these grooves back till the burrs are gone, so they're all the marks are into the unit now. I've also put a piece of wood in here to go through down here, which is going to be the structure of our door. It's a bit of scrap, that's why there's holes and stuff in it, marks in it, but it's just a bit of scrap. No one's going to see it, it's on the inside anyway. So the hatch will be along here and close along there. So now I have to make up the curved pieces for the hatch, which is over here, to get it back to its original shape.